Hey everyone, welcome back to the EV Geek Studios. I'm your host Joel, and as you can see, I am joining you remotely today. Hopefully, for those watching on YouTube, you are digging this awesome green screen backdrop I have. I am not. It's just a random image I found on my iMac. So yeah, it is what it is. Today is Wednesday, May 6, 2026, and we are diving deep into the engineering and infrastructure shifts that are defining Rivian's next chapter. If you've been following the industry, you know that the startup label is officially being shred. Rivian is entering the era of mass marketing manufacturing, and the data coming out of their Q1 2026 earnings call is frankly staggering. So today we're looking at two major stories from Rivian. First, we're going to be breaking down the engineering wizardry behind the R2, a car I'm super excited about. Specifically, how Rivian managed to slash production costs by 50% compared to the R1 series, which is important to be profitable. We're talking zonal architecture, part consolidation, and a total rethink of the assembly process. We're going to get into some pretty heavy technical stuff today, so buckle up. Second, we're going to be heading to Georgia. Rivian just announced a massive 50% increase in the initial capacity for their upcoming Stanton Springs plant. We'll look at the CapEx implications, the updated DOE, loan details, and what a 300,000 unit started capacity means for the broader midsize EV market. Let's dive in. So to understand where Rivian is going in the next few years, we have to look at the bill of materials, or what they call in the auto industry, BOM. During the latest earnings call, CEO RJ Scaringe confirmed that the R2 costs roughly half as much to build as the R1S. Now you might think that's just because the R2 is smaller. So while physical size does play a role, the real savings are found in the engineering milestones. And we're going to go through a few of them here. So let's start with the zonal architecture. In the R1, the wiring was traditional, miles of copper snaking through the vehicle. In the R2, Rivian has moved to a consolidated zonal computing architecture. This reduced the overall wiring harness's length by, get ready for it, 2.3 miles. More importantly, they reduced the number of connectors by 60%. For those of you who track manufacturing efficiencies, connectors are a primary point of failure in a massive labor sink on the assembly line. Next, we're going to look at their high voltage system. Rivian consolidated the power conversion module from 5 separate units into just one. This allowed them to reduce expensive high voltage cabling by 70%. Then there's the Maximus drive unit. I love the name for that. It's just so cool. This is the successor to the Enduro units. The Maximus has 43% fewer parts. They've actually mounted the inverter directly onto the drive unit. By doing this, they lengthened the bus bars for better efficiency and shared the coolant routing with the drive unit's heat exchanger. They even used the inverter lid as the drive unit mount. This is designed for manufacturing at its peak, making one part do the job of 3. Even the suspension and chassis weren't safe from the accountants and engineerings. The R2 swaps the R1's complex double wishbone front suspension for a McPherson setup, achieving a 70% cost saving in that module alone. They're also leaning heavily into large die castings. The underbody structure now uses 90% fewer parts than the R1. When you hear 90% fewer parts, you're looking at a 30% direct cost savings on the chassis alone. This isn't just about making a cheaper car, which Rivian does need to do. It's about making a car that is profitable at a $45,000 MSRP. So while the R2 is being prepped for its initial launch in its Normal, Illinois plant, the real volume play is in Georgia. The news breaking this week is that Rivian has boosted the initial annual capacity for the Georgia plant from 200,000 units to 300,000 units, a 50% jump before the first vertical beam is even placed. So why the sudden increase? It comes down to infrastructure economics. Rivian has updated its Department of Energy loan application. They are now looking to borrow $4.5 billion. You may think that's a lot, but it's actually down from the original $6.8 billion estimate. By optimizing the facility design, they are getting 100,000 more units of capacity for less borrowed capital. This is a massive win for their balance sheet. They expect to start drawing on this loan by early 2027. Vertical construction in Georgia is slated to begin this summer, so just around the corner. The facility will be the primary home for the midsize platform, not just the R2, but the R3, the R3X, and the 50,000 unit robotaxi fleet with partnership with Uber. And let's not forget about that robotaxi factor. Tucked away in this announcement was a reminder of their partnership with Uber. Remember, Rivian plans to build up to 50,000 R2-based robotaxis at this plant, starting sometime in late 2028. This isn't just about selling cars to families. It's about becoming the hardware backbone for the autonomous future. So let's run the numbers that Rivian is looking at. So Normal, Illinois currently was expanded to handle about 155,000 R2 units annually. You have that Georgia plant for phase 1, which will boost that up to about 300,000 units at that site. So total midterm capacity is about 455 to 515,000 vehicles annually when combined with the R1 and their electric delivery vehicle lines. CFO Claire McDonough noted that this specific scale is the magic number for achieving positive free cash flow. In Q1 2026, Rivian did post a net loss of $416 million on $1.38 billion in revenue. While a loss is still a loss, it is a significant improvement over previous years. The Georgia plant is the engine that is supposed to turn those numbers green. The final piece of this puzzle, which a lot of people are talking about, is sourcing leverage. When Rivian built the R1, they were an unproven startup, buying parts in low volumes. So suppliers charged them a premium. Now, with hundreds of thousands of vehicles on the road and a massive plant in the works, the math has changed. RJ Scaringe pointed out that the R2 front windshield cost about half as much as the R1's. This isn't because the glass is half as good. It's because Rivian now has the volume to negotiate like the big three legacy automakers. We are seeing the transition from a niche luxury brand to a mass market industrial powerhouse. The R2 is already in sellable production in Normal, and deliveries are expected to begin later this spring. You're probably going to see some of them out on the road very, very soon. The roadmap is clear. Launch the R2, prove the margins in Illinois, and then copy and paste that efficiency into the 300,000 unit per year monster they're building in Georgia. Sounds like a great plan for Rivian. Hope everything works out. All right, that's a wrap on today's deep dive. Rivian is making the moves that matter, reducing part counts, consolidating architecture, and scaling infrastructure. The R2 isn't just a new model, it's a completely different approach to how Rivian builds technology. Sebastian and I will be keeping a close eye on the Georgia site as vertical construction begins this summer. Thanks again for watching, everyone. But before you leave today, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tap that notification icon if you're watching on YouTube so you are alerted when new content drops. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your audio podcast, hit that follow button and leave us a comment. It really helps the show grow. As always, thanks for joining us today. And until next time, stay charged and stay geeky. So long, everyone.